Okay, so here is a quick rundown. First, I guess, welcome to the Growing Your Business podcast. You'll see the podcast here in a second. I'm refilming, well, I guess not refilming. I'm filming this intro because what had happened was Rebecca and I both have kids, so the audio from this episode originally that we filmed was like unusable. So we refilmed yesterday with the intention that I was going to edit and get it all posted by today. However, we ended up going off like on a bunch of tangents in this episode, and it's good content, so I did not want to like cut it all out just to get an episode up. So what we're doing now is splitting it into 3 chunks. A chunk is going up today, Friday, July 5th. A chunk is going up tomorrow, Saturday, July 6th. And then a chunk is going up on a Sunday, the 7th. So that's what we're doing. But because of that, there is no like singular like intro and outro for like each bit. So this is it. So now that you know what's going on, we'll get into the video.
Welcome to the Growing Your Business podcast. I'm Rebecca Merker, a handmade jewelry artist.
And I am Jackie Chaplin, a crochet business owner and YouTuber.
Today we are talking about what you need to know about events.
So, full disclosure, we recorded this episode once, but we both have kids, so it was kind of like unusable audio. So if we seem like a little odd this time, it's because we're doing this the day before it goes live.
I feel like you're definitely going to block this section out that you just said, but
I don't.
Just in case.
I figured it provides context.
That's true.
If you're like odd, you know, and I leave a lot of that stuff in. So basically, originally in the episode, we went over like how you can connect with customers and how to find markets. So we'll probably start with how to find markets and then go into like how you can connect with your customers. And yeah, we just touched on a lot of different things regarding events. So the first place that you can like look for events is either on Facebook or on sites like Eventny, EVENTENY. Pop that up on the screen. And then just good old fashioned Facebook. There's an events tab, and then you can search by like location and by date. So if you know you're booked up this month, you could check for next month.
I think that we have both agreed in the past that Facebook is one of the best places to look for events because it's the bare minimum marketing that you want from an event that you're looking at. When you're looking for events, you definitely want them to market, and Facebook is free. It's easy. You set it up and you can literally leave it there, or you could share it to your local groups. And even if you did it one time, you're going to, generate a little bit of interest in your event.
Yeah, because most everybody has Facebook. And I know that's a generalization, but it's true. A good amount of people are on Facebook. So finding the event on Facebook is good because that means like a lot of people will probably know about it too. And then like she said, if you share it amongst like your community, that can drive even more traffic to the event, to your business. So it's very helpful. And one good thing about finding events on Facebook is off to the side, there's like a little area where it says how many people are going and how many people are interested. And don't be alarmed if it's like May and the event's not till like October and it looks like low interest because that's very far away. But as you get closer to the event, you can see those numbers climb, and that can give you a good indication of whether that event is like worth your time or not. And you can sometimes find events for last year's event for that thing. So if it's like an annual like strawberry festival, you could find last year's strawberry festival page and get kind of a good idea of how many people went, what the like thoughts on it were, and gauge that way if it's worth your time.
I would just say definitely for events, it's an experience thing, but we've noticed that events that have a little bit of higher interest rate, so you're thinking 500, 1200, 2000 is kind of where I like to cap it at. Those tend to bring in more money because more people are coming to those events. That's just the interest rate. That's not necessarily the people who say that they are going.
Yeah, the interested is definitely good. Because think of it, it's like fishing in a pond. You can fish with like one pole, or if it's 1200 people going, that's like 1200 poles. We've done events that are close to like 10,000, but that's like a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I wouldn't recommend that for your first event, but if you've been doing events for a while, that's like a good event.
You do you, though, if you want to jump into the deep end. Some people really thrive into those high-stress environments.
That is true. That is true. I'd be nervous, but I mean, I'm nervous still, and I'm like in this and done a few events now. But yeah, an event with like 1,200 people interested is like having 1,200 fishing poles in the water. You're like bound to catch something that way. So it's just, law of averages. The more people, the more potential to sell stuff. The bigger the better, typically. Everybody always asks, like, how much should I make if this event has 10,000 people? As much as you possibly can. There is, like, no good number. If you've made all you can up till, like, you get there and you sell out, great. You put in max effort. That's good. If you made all you can and then you have extras, that just means you're ready for the next event, too. It's fine. Just make as much as you can for every event always is how I do it.
And it's all going to depend on the pricing of your products too. So if your prices are low priced items, you're not going to make the same amount as somebody who has high priced items. You won't have the same equal amount of sales. Somebody with high priced items might make less sales but make more money than you. Somebody with low priced items might have more sales and make equal amount to you. I mean, ultimately, they could make more too. Like Jacki's made more at events than I have.
Yeah. Well, she
Depending on the
can get
events.
like 2-3 sales and already be at like the $500 range, whereas like I do have some higher priced items that are like almost equivalent to some of her jewelry prices, but mainly people shop like the 10 to like 25 range pretty solidly at my events. So like by the time I'm hitting $500, I'm at like, 20 sales.
Yeah, and I mean,
So.
it's definitely knowing your customer too and who you want to sell with. And that's something you need to look for when you're looking at these events, whether on Facebook, Event Teeny, you can find them on Instagram, Googling, or looking in your local area like churches and stuff too.
Oh yeah,
good.
local boards. My library has like a local board, and they also have like a local Facebook group. And
Chamber of Commerce.
oh yeah, the Chamber of Commerce. That's how I like heard about the Strawberry Festival. It wasn't from the event page. It was just from like the local groups, because the locals like know about it. They go every year.
Yeah.
One thing to be aware of though with events.
So think about whether or not your customer is going to be at this event. So that's something we're going to talk about in a future podcast, how to narrow down who your customer is. But you want to make sure they're going to be there so that you can sell to them. If they're not showing up at your event, you're not going to make sales no matter how many people are there.
Like she said, we'll get into it in the next podcast that we do. But just, just think it through. I think you can kind of tell up front, even without knowing like fully what demographic means. If you're somebody like Rebecca and you sell jewelry, probably like a full kid-friendly event is not necessarily the best market for you, whereas I sell plushies. So I would do very well at a kid-friendly event because that's a lot of the people who like buy my items. So just kind of, ruminate on it.
And I'll be
See if it
straight
makes
with
sense.
that. I don't do well at kid-friendly events, and it was something that I came to like a very stark realization as my business was developing and growing last year. And I changed a lot of the products I made, and I was able to buy tools that kind of worked better with my business and what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I noticed that at a kid-friendly event that was less kid-friendly the year before, but had like transitioned into being more kid-friendly as their business was growing, I made no sales versus the year before I was making hundreds of dollars at that event. And so
Is that the like almost fall festival one?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
it was a farm event, and I do pretty decently at farm events, honestly.
Yeah, because I feel like you get those like kind of like Pinterest girls that like the, like let's go to the farmer's market Saturday morning aesthetic.
A little bit, and I sell
Yeah.
to a lot of an older clientele too.
Yeah.
So I have a mixed range as far as customer goes. So
I really do too, because I started getting nervous, and this is like how sometimes you can think it through but not fully think it through, but it still works out. She's done really well at some girls' night out events, so I'm like, okay, score, let me get on some of that action. So I get to this girls' night out event, I'm setting up, I'm looking around. It's like grown-up products, grown-up products, grown-up products. Like, full fancy leather bags, jewelry, just like, adult like cups, shirts, there's a mechanical bowl. So I'm like, maybe I misjudged this situation, but it worked out because some of these women did bring their children.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like the one kid option. So that like I cleaned up at that event pretty well.
No,
But I got a little nervous because I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, there's nothing else like this here.
Now, on the note of that particular event, that event was organized by different people that organized the original Girls Night Out I went to. And so where's the original one? I did really well. It was very well organized. I was in a good spot. I had a lot of fun at the event, and I did financially very well at the event. At the event that Jacki did amazing at, I did terrible at. It was where I was located. She was located in a very good area, had lots of space.
They had her like under the staircase, Harry Potter style, like
Oh,
literally,
yeah.
like
I was crammed between two large vendors that had like towering displays. I have a front display that goes across that has I do definitely raise up because it is recommended, and I've seen results from it, having your pieces on display in like an upwards
but like
point of view.
think about a necklace, like a necklace display. You can really only
Only go
raise
so
it
high.
so high. Yeah.
You don't want to be above people's head. Whereas I had a keychain vendor on one side, and it was kitchen
6
cabinetry advertisement on the other side.
Oh, great.
And had I known that they were targeting that market where they were getting just about anybody who wanted to advertise their business, I would not have signed up for the event, because that just doesn't work well with my business. If you're there for advertising purposes, you're not there to make money, you're there for future money. That doesn't really work for someone who's trying to run a point of sale
make
business.
money, in the moment. And That's a good point. And we'll kind of touch on this briefly before moving on because, you know, there's other market stuff to cover.
Sure.
Don't go to an event and see that it's a flop and let that be like, you know, the end all be all. Like, I never want to do that event again because I recently made a video about this for my channel. I've gone to an event at Beasley Farms almost every month since I started vending. It's usually been profitable, a couple $100 to like $500-600 in a day, $1,000 in a weekend kind of deal. Not bad. And then the last one I did there, I made like $30 in a day. So if I like let that be the end all be all, like I would have not, you know, made future money by trying it again. And the following month I did try it again and made money. So don't let like the one flop be like super discouraging because sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and like I said, the girls' night out, I realized that it was very seasonal for my business, which my business is very seasonal, and it just depends on what I'm trying to do during that season. I can make money all year long depending on what I'm doing during that season. There's a season for custom, there's a season for wedding, there's a season for events and sales.
Yes.
And so during January, it was an amazing event. So when we went back in, what was it, February or March?
I think it was March because I think I tried to get in February.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
I think February was March was a flop for me, and I think I might have done one more that was kind of and I realized I was getting out of event season for the events that I was trying to do. So I had 2 more events up until May that did very well because of the markets I was at. Those were events I expected to do well. I did better than expected at them, honestly, because those are events I've frequented in the past, and I've seen the way they've grown. I've seen their organization. A lot of event money has to do with the event organizer.
Yeah, it really does. And generally speaking, and this is not true for everywhere, so like apply this to your own like seasons. Generally, fall is really good for events. You're leading up to like prime gift giving time. And then spring, it tends to slow down. However, I know this is not true for everywhere because I was talking to a crochet vendor who lives up north in one of the Dakotas, and I'm so sorry, I don't remember where. But she's just starting her event season, and they go through to like late summer because wintertime is like cold as shit. And then, you know, it's still cold early spring. So while we're finishing up now, she's like just getting started for like the next 20 weeks for her season. So just kind of like apply that to like where you live. And if it's like a real hopping time, you see people out, that's probably a good event season to do. And if it's like, you know, cold weather or rainy seasonally, probably that's when it's like winding down.
Well, and you can think about, and I think we should talk on this maybe in a further video for us here in Florida. Event season has to do with holidays, marketing, and what's going on in the year. And of course, seasonal changes like you mentioned. And so holiday shopping starts in September in Florida. It's just, you may not want to be out there in September. Some people are going to be, some people aren't. Yeah, it's hot. It depends on what your business is and how you go about it. But it starts in September. That's when people start thinking about Christmas. There's a lot of birthdays and there's a lot of weddings that happen around that time that they may want to gift someone, depending on your product.
September is good. I will say that is going to be the lowest of your like fall months.
Yes.
But it does kind of start. And you'll be missing money if you skip that. But also, it's so god-awful hot in Florida in September. So if you really want to skip it or do like a late September event, that might be advisable.
Maybe. September.
I did get into it last year in September, but man, it's hot.
September, October, November, December, January.
October was like peak season for me.
October's peak season. November's really good in the jewelry for me. December's kind of dead as far as events go, but custom orders, it's pretty amazing as long as you're out there and you're telling people. You have to tell people that you can do that. They don't just know. So
yeah,
as long as you're telling people. Yeah. And then January, do not discount January because it's after Christmas. So many people are like, Christmas is over. People don't have the money to shop.
She did really good in January.
January's an
after
amazing month.
we finally got through December and I was ready to just like, you know,
I was still going. I still had events lined. I have events lined up until May for most years. So they go from September until May. And I was aiming to do the summer events, but June I mostly missed out and I just stuck with repairs and custom orders. And then we're kind of looking at this month to see whether or not I want to jump into any events. I love doing events, but it is really hot outside. And that's not great for our health. I think I'm going to skip
it for this month because I need to build stock because I didn't get to build stock in June because I had that like never ending order. So
I'm constantly building stock. I do my live videos and I build stock during the live videos, so you can watch me make my pieces twice a week, honestly. At least, a minimum twice a week.
I'm doing a crochet with me, but I'm doing it for a gift. So as far as choosing markets, some things that you could think about include, you know, who's going to be there. Are they letting in a lot of MLMs? Are they letting in a bunch of people in the same category as you? Both of those things are not necessarily inherently bad, but it's just something to consider. So I'll let you speak on like the paparazzi jewelry thing for yours, and then kind of
go a little bit on the MLMs.
Yeah.
So MLMs, and I do have a lot of experience working alongside MLMs, working with and having friends that are in MLMs who do events near me, and so I will speak a little bit on
MLM
that.
meaning
Multi-level marketing.
That's the one.
MLMs are multi-level marketing, and they're not a bad thing. They are not in any way. I don't want, as a handmade creator, and our podcast is more geared towards handmade creators. So that doesn't mean that if you work in something else, you can't listen to us. You absolutely can, and this advice does go along to everybody. They have specific events that are catered towards them, and marketing that works and is catered towards them. You need to decide whether or not your products fit alongside theirs if you see MLMs at an event. Because there are MLMs that are on the very lower end that, you know, some of Jacki's, not all of it, some of Jacki's stuff might complement very, very well. And then there are some that are on the higher end.
I need the really like expensive MLM stuff and I hate to say it like that, but that's the only thing that's kind of balanced, because some of my price points are a little higher because you're paying for my time.
You have such a range.
Crochet is like a slow craft, so I like need to make sure I'm like getting paid for my time, because that's the only way I'm going to make a profitable crochet business. So like I can't have like, you know, the paparazzi jewelry people selling $5 jewelry right next to my like, you know, $20 mini whale, because then it makes my mini whale look it's outrageously priced. But meanwhile, that took like an hour to make, so that's really not like a terrible price for it when you account for my time and the materials it takes to make it.
Well, and the same for me, because like you said, yours is kind of like a higher price. I do like MLMs that have a higher price value. There are a lot of amazing ones out there because they complement my products versus, and again, we're going to talk about the $5 jewelry. This is no hate to the people who sell them necessarily. I'm not personally a fan from my own experience in the jewelry industry of the last 14 years, but it's no hate towards the people who sell them. It's just that they don't fit with my products, and it doesn't make sense to be sitting next to somebody who has $5 jewelry they didn't make, that's manufactured in bulk quantities and is not of really great quality, versus the pieces that I have spent years of experience and time into making, so that are made with really great quality, that I bring in all the parts for myself. I have to explain all that stuff when somebody sees somebody with a lower end piece near me. I have to explain almost ridiculous amount.
Why is this bracelet $5 but yours is $50? I don't understand.
Yeah, and
that's because you're gonna wear that one home and it's gonna break before you leave the parking lot, and this one has actual stones.
That's a true story. I had somebody tell me that their piece did break before they left the parking lot. Not my piece, but their $5 piece.
I'm not shocked. If it's jewelry for $5, like, let's use our logic here.
Well, and it comes with that expectation. Quality? I think people who buy it do expect the quality that they are getting. And then some people do have pieces that last quite a while with them. It is fashion jewelry, and my stuff is fine and fine jewelry. They are not the same market. Yeah. And so I found that events that cater towards that are not necessarily events for me. There's no reason for me to explain 60 times in a day why my pieces are high quality and nice. I would rather refer you to my Instagram, to one of my live videos, to have like a chat back and forth on, you know, the different quality of pieces, because you're interested in a piece, and not explain to you why you shouldn't buy their piece, because ultimately you're going to buy the piece you want.
Like the difference between like gold filled versus gold plated, or something that's just gold but like not actually like 14 karat gold, because some people will be like, it's gold, but like they're just talking color.
And I have gold filled, and I have 14 karat gold on my table, and so I've had to explain that, explain the difference between stainless steel and a silver looking piece is not something I really want to do. Sterling silver versus stainless steel any day. I can explain the benefits to one versus the other, or the benefits of both of them, and why somebody might pick one because it reacts better to their skin. I'm happy to do that, but I don't really want to explain why their stuff is cheaper, other than the fact that it's mass produced in a manufacturing warehouse.
So like just consider that, the MLMs, and those could be things like Pampered Chef. I think the Norwax people are MLMs. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but Arbonne. Arbonne.
Oh,
it's like a skincare lifestyle.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
I have a friend who's actually a seller of that, and she's like one of their top reps and is going to Aruba, so like good on her. But also
they have some amazing benefits. Again, it's
kind of, you know, it's just kind of, does it work for my stuff? And usually it doesn't, because a lot of the times, you know, the pricing thing, it can be an issue. Arbonne tends to be a little more expensive, so that's fine. But also, like, Pampered Chef attracts more, like, grown-up people, and I do well at kid events. So, like, it just kind of depends, you know? You consider that. And then ask if you're not sure or if you can't tell by, like, you know, the people who are, like, asking about when the event is. Ask how many people are going to be in the same category as you. I sometimes do this, and it works out well. I sometimes skip it, and it doesn't work out well. Like, only, like, 40 vendors, and then, like, 3 of us are crochet, and we could all see each other, kind of not great. You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ask. And that's not to say that, like, you can't do an event with other people, because I'm fine at larger events with multiple crochet people. I think that at that point they can put us far enough apart that it's fine. I obviously don't mind if we're the same kind of vendor, as long as we're in the same price point too, because it's really confusing to see this chicken over here for $15 but then see it over there for like $8. Not my favorite. Please price your worth.
Well, and I did an event in February where marketing wise the coordinators put all of our vending stations, all of our booths right next to each other.
I hate that. And what logic? And it just happened to work out because it was like...
It worked out.
Jewelry, but like ammo jewelry and magnetic jewelry and her like demi-fine jewelry and then probably some cheap-ass jewelry, but like...
When it was really funny.
What is the logic?
When I walked up to the event and I introduced myself to my neighbors, so here I am introducing myself and saying, hey, I make jewelry too. And they literally looked at me and they're like, I'm so sorry for you. They said, I'm so sorry for you. And I was like, oh, I'm not. I make different things than you. I've been next to other jewelry makers before. I've done events like that. I don't think it's a good idea as a coordinator to do so because it definitely does not.
If you're an event coordinator, like, let's just pause for a second. Time out. If you're an event coordinator, do not put, like, categories by each other. I know for your organization it might be easier, but, like, let's, like, use our brain cells here. Please don't do that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and we'll get back.
It's definitely strong, but I do, like, I understand and kind of consent with the idea and the notion of it because ultimately you're not going to get repeat customers on your side. As a coordinator, coordinators' customers are us vendors, and our customers are the customers coming in. We pay the coordinator to market the events that they want to throw, and we pay them upfront that money. And so if you put us next to each other...
as a coordinator if you put me side by side with another crochet vendor.
If you put us next to each other, you're not guaranteeing that I'm going to come back to that event. I put a lot of work into being able to make the money back, not only from the event, but to make profit on it. Because at first you have to make the money back for being there at the event. It does not include the time you spent setting up, making sure you had the right amount of products to be there, and then making sure that, like, when you're at the event itself, those are normally anywhere between 3 and 8 hour events.
They'd be better off, like...
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Okay, you're spot 1. You're spot 2, then, like, let's put everybody that's the same by each other and just see how that works out.
But it is a very common problem that you will probably encounter over time. There's a lot of things with coordination that has also changed over the years, things that we've noticed.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the parking. We're also fired up about that. Me so more than her, but she is too. She's just a little more quiet. But, like... Usually, it used to be a thing where if you have an event and it's Saturday, you just go Saturday morning, you can kind of pull up to your spot, unload real quick, park your vehicle, and then set up. And everybody was happy, we all made money, we all went home. Nowadays, they're like Friday setup at noon, screw you if you have a job, and you're also going to have to park in this parking spot and like BFE and walk your stuff. Good luck.
It is hard. It's hard if you think about it. There are still many events that I do that let me drive up to them. The last event I did at the Botanical Gardens, they still let you drive up to them, and I love that event. I think they're coordinated so well.
The one right before that was cool. We drove right into we did go up on Friday because it was an option. I don't mind a Friday option with Saturday morning also as an option because we did go up Friday. Zach set everything up without the kids, without me there. It was great. And then we just like went back the next morning. So that's fine.
So I can't do that because even though Jacki's stuff is very pricey, her organization and everything is, she has a little bit more leeway with her stuff. There's less people who are going to see it and want to go steal it, hopefully. Not guaranteed. I do have kind of a crappy tent for setting up the day before because my tent sides have like windows that you could see through. But I just trust that, and they said they'd have security, so that's another reason. I just trust that the security is going to do their job, but it's also not the same as leaving out, like, you know, $10,000 worth of merchandise, jewelry, just out and about. And I can't imagine that's good for, like, metal to be, like, left out in, like, the weather. I mean,
like
it's not bad, it's not good. It's kind of in between. I mean, they're not gonna like, they
If you're
won't rust. They're
doing
not
it-
gonna tarnish overnight.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. But it is Florida too, and we are super humid. You know,
I just feel like if you did it like overnight every month, like it would
that would be an
wear
issue.
down the jewelry faster than just like living with it, you know.
Well, and it won't be the actual like weather that's going to wear it down. It's the cleanup. You have to clean each piece.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're cleaning up over time, if you're doing any polishing or you're running it through, it would erode at the piece. So like I don't do that. I bring my stuff in closed containers home. I bring my tables home. I bring my chairs, my tent. I don't leave my stuff anywhere. There's very few places that I would even consider being trustworthy to do so. And that's not because the coordinators haven't tried or because a lot of times they're open markets on public street roads. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a, no matter how safe or how many security guards you have there, that is not a
There
secure place for my stuff.
Yeah, there is still a risk, but at the end of the day, I sell plushies. But also at the end of the day, she sells like somewhat
Jewelry.
fine jewelry, and that's just asking for a problem.
And like I said, I have 14 karat gold stuff on there. I have a ton of sterling silver stuff on there.
Yeah, it's nice stuff.
I have all sorts of
Like
gemstones.
actual rubies, you know, actual pearls, like some not cheap stuff, guys.
I've
Not
got
cheap stuff.
sapphires and everything. So yeah, there's definitely like as far as setting up. And then I do prefer to set up the day of because of those reasons. So I won't set up the night before
Yeah.
because I won't leave it overnight. And then I take it down every single day. So pulling up to my parking spot is really nice. But as Jackie mentioned, I'm not as inflamed about it. I don't think it's okay that they're making us walk a million miles to get to our spot.
She is kind of lucky with her product because you can fit, you know, 200 products of jewelry in like a case like this big. Trying to like carry 200 plushies. I have like a big tote. It's not the same. So like she can have a rolly case and get it done. I have like 6 to 8 2-foot by 6-foot tall grid walls that are not light. And that is just so to carry. I mean, her tables are heavy, but that's like really
Well, and I have a lot of trial
where
and
it like
error.
ends.
I have a lot of trial and error too. So like when I'm carrying
Yeah,
things,
you
most of my
didn't
stuff
always
is
streamline.
wheels.
Yeah.
Most of my stuff has wheels. There was a time where I had like bins that were like they were stacked up to here, and I have carried those by myself into like event stuff, and it was terrible to do. Right now my case is about that big and has a handle up top, and each piece is organized within that case to be able to easily pull out and put on a display.
Yeah, she's managed to streamline. So, all that
takes
to
time.
say is if you're encountering an event that's telling you that you're going to have to like part super far or get there the day before, you need to like
Wagon,
think that through.
dolly.
Yeah, what are you going to bring? Are you going to bring a wagon? Are you going to bring a dolly? Are you setting up the day before and seeing if you can drive in?
Are you setting up alone or do you have a partner? Even your tent can be difficult if you're setting up by yourself. And trust me, just because you can set it up in your yard by yourself does not guarantee you can set it up at an event by yourself.
Yeah, there's something about like the change of terrain that can like make it harder.
It's terrible. Like we might have like, I could like get my leg of my tent nicely buried into my yard. Not like intentionally buried, but like just a little bit of like dirt covering
Just
it
to
so
hold
lift
it.
it up just to hold it, and then end up at a gravel parking lot where there's nothing and it's just sliding every time I try to move
Yeah,
it.
you push it and there it goes. But
Vendors are nice
thankfully,
to help.
yeah, I was gonna say, typically if somebody sees you're struggling, they'll walk up, but don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, can I just borrow you for like 2 seconds? Because I literally cannot get this. I've never seen any other vendor tell another vendor, like, no.
Vendors
So-
at markets are amazing. Vendors and coordinators are and can be amazing. It's
Yeah.
very rare that
They're
you're going to run into
usually
somebody
really
who's
good,
not.
but they also don't always vend their own events because they're the coordinator. So they sometimes only think of it from their perspective and not enough from like our perspective. And just think about it just a little bit from our
Well, that's why
perspective.
I'm partial to the G&O events, because the Girls Night Out events, the coordinator that I like, not the bad event that was not organized right, that was a different coordinator. The coordinator that I like vends that event.
Yeah. Well, and the one that I went to that was a different coordinator, she did vend the event too. But I don't know.
wasn't
She was
well
young.
organized.
I think this was probably one of her like first handful of events. And you get better. You know, she's really adapted her setup. I've kind of adapted mine, but there's also not too much you can do with like 6-foot by 2-foot grid walls other than getting a dolly. But I'm also bringing 6 to 8 6-foot by 2-foot grid walls. So like, where's the dolly going to go in the car at this point? Okay. And that is where we're going to cut it today. We will be back tomorrow with some more information about events. Now we're more getting into what to do at events. Say if you're like in a poor spot and you'd like to move, or, you know, how you can kind of tell you're in a bad spot. So come back tomorrow morning time. So come back tomorrow for that information and a bunch of other information too. And we will see you then.